Well, let's get a move on then and focus on the skincare segment, which has now grown to so much more than just cleansing, toning, and moisturizing. It's safe to say that when deciding skincare products now, it's a fairly complicated process. Now you've got even products like date and quinoa eye creams. This is from the house of Dr. Sheth. Let's connect then with Dr. Anish Sheth, who's returned from the United States after finishing his PhD in pharmacology with a deep expertise on the botanical drug development. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheth, for joining us on Startup Central, and good to have you here on board. So this is a business, I understand, that started years ago, and the brand has been built with a wealth of knowledge that you've gathered through the generations and the consumer-focused approach as well. Can you tell us a bit more about how this has launched as a business now and evolved as a startup?
So when I was at Cornell, actually I'll go back a little bit. When I was growing up, my mom would always go through journals and research, and we'd have conversations on the table, and she'd just get really frustrated because there was a lot of research that was happening, and it was on Caucasian skin. And she would just say that this is not relevant for our skin, and it's so difficult to find research for our skin. So when I came back from Cornell about 3 years ago, I realized that not much has changed in the last, 15 years. And given that I'm a pharmacist and I'm able to formulate products, and we have my grandfather who was a dermatologist, my mom is a dermatologist, I realized that there's no product that addresses the needs of Indians, and there's 1 billion of us. So I definitely felt that there was a gap there that we needed to address, and we have the experience to address it. So that's how the brand started. And in terms of the consumer-focused approach, I definitely believe in being in direct contact with our community. So we're very active on Instagram, and we've created products. Given that we have a pharmacist and a panel of dermatologists in-house, we've been able to create products that address the needs of the community and are able to answer what they want.
People have started becoming increasingly aware and more focused on environment sustainability. And I understand as well that your products are free from a lot of chemicals like parabens and a lot of other harmful toxic chemicals. Can you tell us a little bit more?
So let's divide the question that you've asked in 3 parts, right? Talking about parabens and sulfates, we are a bunch of scientists and dermatologists, so we pay very close attention to what goes into our formulations. We make sure that there is no long-term risk that we pose onto our community. Products are tested, formulated, not just by the dermatologists, but by my family as well. So we definitely that's a logical and scientific decision that we've made. The other part is environment and sustainability. I don't think that's really a question. I think that's more, we have to do it. It's not something we typically advertise, but wherever possible, we try and keep a circular economy. So our plastic bottles, for example, are made out of recycled plastic. Our labels are made out of recycled paper. So these are things that we do, and we don't really, it's not really something that we mention. It's just ingrained in our culture. And the last part of the question is in terms of vegans and cruelty-free. So it's more about being inclusive and being protective of animals. So we see a lot of patients, we've seen a lot of minorities and communities, and they feel marginalized and ignored. And being a Jain myself, I know that there are certain tablets I won't take because they have gelatin in them. So it's more a question of being completely inclusive and including the entire community at large versus just picking a trend and going with it.
Now, the Mumbai Angels Network as well has led a round of funding. That was an investment of nearly 4 crore rupees. How much have you raised in total? Are you in talks with other investors to raise further funds?
So the Mumbai Angels Network actually raised 3 crores, and then 1 crore came from our contract manufacturers who had faith in the brand and believed in it. They're going to help us scale and make it possible, to sort out the teething issues that happen there. In terms of a future fundraise, I think that's on the cards, but we want to make sure that we partner with the right people. We want synergies to happen as opposed to just additions.
So take us through your financials as well in terms of the kind of revenues. What have you clocked in last year? And are you growing at a profitable rate?
So we made 2 crores in revenue last year profitably. And since the investment, we've expanded our team, beefed up our R&D a little bit, and added a few products to our portfolio. But the plan is to grow sustainably and in a very, long-term fashion versus a trend-based fashion.
But Dr. Sheth, there's just so many products. The market is flooded when it comes to skincare, when it comes to beauty. You're not just competing with, local brands that are now also very environmentally sustainable, but you're also competing with the likes of these big international giants. How difficult is it for you to break through and make a mark?
I think competition is healthy, and I think given that we have 3 generations of expertise and experience in Indian skin, gives us somewhat of an advantage. But I think having competitors in the space, if it adds to the research, if it gives us insights that we can use or helps the community at large, then I think it's always healthy. And competition keeps us on our toes and makes us innovative.
Yeah, it sure does. Glass half full, half empty, 2 ways of looking at it. But tell us a little bit about your growth plans. I understand you're targeting the international markets as well.
So we've been fortunate enough to get a lot of opportunities to expand in international markets. But I think India is where our community belongs, and that's the focus that we have right now. Of course, in a few years, once the world gets a little closer, we may expand. But at that point, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
All right, here's to building the overall brand. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing with us your journey and the growth plans for Dr. Sheth.